Hello. We've been away for a week, and where we were, we could see that there'd been some weather going on. We wondered just how much it may have affected our garden here in Norfolk. We've returned back here, and I can already see that with the winds that have been coming along, we've had some quite good storms that have been about. The arch is actually beginning to lean over. The first thing that actually strikes me is that all the flowers that were on here have gone. So all we're left with is the beans that are on here. Even some have come down. We must have had some really gusty winds through here, Mrs. W.
Yes, yeah. I know that there was a tree locally down, different things I've heard. So there have been some quite nasty wind about.
Look at our tomatoes, look. They're not,
I know.
they're not looking so good. The good news is, though, is that the plant has actually not been upended out of the ground.
Good. That's very good.
We do actually still have some nice red tomatoes.
Fantastic. They've done really well, these outdoors ones, haven't they?
They have, haven't they? We probably need to tie these up a little bit
I know,
more.
and I think that particular cane actually snapped off. So we may need to get a different cane. But as you say, the actual plant itself is still in one piece. So fingers crossed.
Yeah, there are some gorgeous tomatoes too.
Yeah.
I suppose, everything considered, given the storms that blew through here last week. A little bit of damage with the beans. Tomatoes have gone over. But actually, if we look down the garden, the cloches are still in place. And normally they're the first things to sort of really go over, aren't they?
They are,
So
yeah.
maybe those new stakes that I bought are actually working really quite well.
Yes, yeah, I think probably they have made a difference, because the cloche at the far end, where you used those new canes that you bought, the solid ones, that has just stayed exactly as it was. The one in the middle where the sprouts are, you can see on the right hand side that end has buckled a little bit, and also this one in front of me here with the Swedes and things, that's sort of moved a little bit too. Not horrendously, but I do think those other canes, hopefully, are a better...
Are the way to go, being solid.
Yes, exactly. And I think that's going to be what we have to use on that tunnel, because they just... I think if I stand more, you can see how it's leaning. It's definitely leaning to the left, isn't it? And that's... We always get winds from the right to the left here, don't we?
Yeah. But it's not gone over.
It hasn't gone over.
So, considering we haven't been about, it's not such a disaster. And actually, I think we should probably put some links to these new stakes that we found into the description.
Yes.
Because, then anybody watching our channel can go to those and actually buy them, because they do seem a lot better.
Yes, definitely.
Now, we titled this video Full Circle. And the reason for that is that we are about to make our final sowing from the allium family for this year. allium family is a wonderful set of vegetables to be growing. They can give you food for nearly all of the year. We sowed these onions in January of this year. And of course, we now have 1, 2, 3 of these trays that are in storage, and they'll keep us going with onions certainly well into the new year, won't they?
Yeah.
We tend to use the red ones first because they don't, I found in the past, they don't store as well as the white ones. So wherever we can, we tend to use the red up first. And bear in mind, these were actually harvested in July. And we've been using them since then, so yeah, we really did get a fantastic harvest, Mrs. W.
We did. Superb.
And of course, there's the shallots. We've got lots of shallots.
We still need to bring those last ones, I can't remember what they're called, the single ones.
The zabroon.
Zabroon, that's right.
Yep.
We still need to bring those out
Yep.
into here, don't
Yeah,
we?
we've still got those because they're just about cured now.
Yes.
And they were sown last October, and then we harvested those in June. And the same with our garlic.
Nice stash of garlic there.
Oh yes. They were planted just like the shallots last October,
Yeah.
and they were harvested in June. Also not forgetting our elephant
garlic. Yeah.
which we've actually really quite enjoyed, haven't we?
We have. Those are the ones, I think those ones that you've got your hands on there are the ones we're going to sow.
They are.
Sorry, are the ones we're going to plant. I must get my terminology right. Into the ground for next year's harvest, aren't we?
Yes, so we'll
Because we started
double
off
our
with
harvest,
two, we just simply bought two bulbs, like cloves like that,
Yeah.
didn't we?
yeah.
Last year. And we got the two.
Yeah. So we'll have 4 plants,
Yes.
and then that should enable us to have some more bulb. But what we are going to do is to actually plant these
Bulbils.
Yeah.
Yes.
that came off them,
Yeah.
and we'll grow those on for the rest of this year and into next year, and that should form a monobulb, shouldn't it?
Yes.
Which we can then plant out the following year, and then they will produce something similar to this.
Yes.
We also have chives, and we split these each year, don't we, so that they can
Yes.
produce even more plants. And just by cutting the tops, you get a lovely oniony taste, which can be used like a herb, can't it?
Yes. Yeah.
Sprinkled
you
on
can
the
also
top.
eat the flowers, which I can see it's a bit late in the season for there to be a flower on there, but there is a flower on there.
And the bees absolutely adore these,
Yes,
don't
they do.
Absolutely adore these. As actually they do most herbs. And you can see where we planted all these herbs earlier on in the year.
Parsley's slightly taken over.
In this vegegar raised bed, we do actually have lots of lovely herbs to be able to pick from. And then of course there's the leeks, another member of the allium family, and they're coming ready now. We've had a couple of harvests from these already, haven't we?
Yes, yeah.
And if you're seeing things like rust, as soon as I see it, I take those leaves off. And they won't do the plant any harm, it just stops it spreading really readily. So with this plant, the 2 outermost leaves have actually got a bit of rust, but then the rest of the plant is hardly actually affected. So that's a job you can do, is to just remove those outer leaves, just like so. I've never known these two, or the rust, to transfer into a compost heap, so we compost them every year. And that's actually a good tip to do that, just to save it, you know, your plant becoming overtaken by the rust. The rust doesn't actually affect the plant that much, it just looks unsightly and doesn't look so good. You can see most of the plants have nice green leaves. They're actually really starting to thicken up now, aren't they,
They
Mrs.
are,
W?
yes, yeah. Yeah. We've got 2 varieties in there, haven't we?
Yes, Poor Bella and Winter Giant. And of course, by the time you mix the spring onions in, or salad onions as some people know them as, you can have the taste of onion for most of the year. All by one little period. There is just a period between sort of April and, in our case, July, when we harvest our main crop onions, where we don't have any bulbing onions. Yeah, for sure we'll have spring onions, but we will have exhausted our supply of onions then. If I had more land to grow my onions in, I'd certainly make sure I could grow enough to see us through, the next 7 to 8 months. But we can't. About 6 months is the best we can do. It's all the land that we have to be able to devote to those bulbing onions. However, there is another bulbing onion that you could have sown back in August and that you can plant out now, mid to late September. And those onions will overwinter, so they'll grow to so tall, and then when the light really does diminish and the nights are cold, the days are cold actually here in Norfolk, they will literally suspend themselves and won't grow anymore. But they will have got themselves to a certain height and a certain stage in their growth, so that when we get to the mid to late February and we start to see some sunny days again, and the nights are pulled out just that little bit longer, they then start to romp away. And then, in our case here in Norfolk, we've always found that we get harvest sometime towards the end of April, depending on what size onion you want, but into May, don't we?
Yes, yeah.
Now, I totally respect that a lot of people don't like growing these. They think it's a waste of time. But for us, we find it really valuable. It just bridges that gap between May and July, when we harvest the main crop onions that we will sow next January. And you don't need to devote a lot of space to them. At the end of the day, we're looking at a couple of months worth of onions. So you can see down here, I've already dipped the holes. Mrs. W's given them a water. And there are 24 plants I'm going to put in here.
Multi-sown plants, aren't they?
They are multi-sown plants, you are quite right. So on average we leave 4 after thinning out. So you can do the math yourselves, 4 times 24. We're going to have around about 90 onions, which should be more than enough. And really there's no point in growing any more than that really, because the overwintering bulbing onions don't store very well. You might be able to keep them for a maximum of 3 months. But what we've always found is we just twist the largest ones out when we want them, don't we, and leave the others on to grow.
Yeah. Yeah.
And we normally grow these outside. Yep, they're normally outside. And I think that's one of the things where people say I don't particularly like growing overwintering onions, because they can get battered by the weather depending on what kind of winter we have, and it sometimes doesn't seem really worth the effort in doing it. But as you know, Tim and Mandy built our amazing Haygrove tunnel. So this year I'm going to be growing ours undercover. One of the things that we never did was, whenever we grew them outside, we just left them there in all weathers. We always got a harvest, by the way.
Yeah, we did.
It was never a disaster. We just lost the odd onion along the way, didn't we?
Yeah.
Because, I don't know, we're here back end of September. It's a lovely sunny day, following all that wind and rain and the storms that came through. So standing here now, I have no idea what kind of winter we're going to have. Are we going to get snow? Is it going to freeze multiple times? Or is it going to be a mild winter? Simply don't know. So what I would advise you to do, and where we got our best harvest, is actually, if you're going to plant those outside, then just fleece them over during the worst of the weather. So sometime between December and February, at least. Get some fleece over them. just to keep the worst of the weather off them, and that will help you get more harvest from your plants. Now, of course, ours are going to be covered, so what we have done, we've sown two types. We always grow the Saint-Chu, and they've always produced for us, haven't they?
Yep.
But I saw some seeds that were called High Keeper. Tends to rather make you think that they might keep a little bit longer than the Saint-Chu. I don't know that, but when we get to next April and May and we're harvesting these and we'll see how long these store, obviously we can get you a better idea. So let's get these in, Mrs. W.
Yeah.
And on their way. As I say, these were sown mid-August. We find it the best time to sow that for us. And you can see they're a nice size now.
You can see the roots coming at the bottom, can't you? Yeah, that's looking good.
Yep, absolutely ready to be popped into the ground. Now, one thing we have found, haven't we, Mrs. W, is that in the polytunnel, things dry out quite quickly, don't they?
Yeah.
So
We're still getting used to the amount of
Yeah.
water we need to give everything, but
Yeah.
we're getting there.
But yeah, as you say, we're getting there. And as Mrs. W said earlier, these are multi-sown. Mrs. W would have put anything up to 8 seeds in here. Well, actually, if Mrs. W sowed, then there could be anything up to 10 or 12.
I aim 6 to 8. But you know me.
And as I said, these will probably get up to about here and then they'll stop growing. And it's always why, you know, you need to sow these mid-August. So they go in now and they've still got, while the soil is still nice and warm, they've still got the rest of September, October, and in our case, November to be able to grow away and get to the right size. If they get too big, they really struggle. So it's no good sowing these this seed in June or July because the plants will be too big, and especially if you've got them outside, the frost will then just kill them, or at least severely
Check them.
check them.
Mm.
And just as you see us do with our main crop onions, when we're growing those, we shall sometime next year, once they're the size of spring onions, we'll actually thin these down so that there's just 4 onions left behind. We shall actually have some lovely spring onions.
Yeah, we don't waste them.
Oh no. Oh no. I've actually got some spring onions to go in as well, which are going up the other end of the polytunnel. Because spring onions is another way of ensuring that you have some lovely onion taste early in the season. And again, if you sow those sometime in August, and we always seem to find that mid-August is the best time for us, and then putting them in the ground now, then the spring onions in particular, regardless whether they're, well, because we used to sow ours outside, but we would actually have those ready for us to have round about April, didn't we?
Yeah, yeah.
You'd start to see them really progress along during March, but certainly by April you would have some nice onions to be able to.
And who knows, we may get these a little earlier as we're putting them in the polytunnel.
Yeah, you're
because
right.
we put some into the greenhouse last year over winter, didn't we? And we
Yes.
had those earlier.
We did indeed.
So we'd like to think that the same will happen.
And what I'm actually going to do is to actually utilise both the polytunnel and the greenhouse. If you remember last year, we didn't actually sow the spring onions until the beginning of October, and they went out at the end of October when we'd taken the tomatoes out. And we actually had harvest then during May, didn't we?
Mm-hmm, yes.
So The spring onions we put in here will go in obviously at this time of the month, September. So hopefully they'll come a little earlier, and then we'll get a follow-on harvest from the greenhouse. Hey, you just see me putting the onions in. Didn't think you need to see me do the same thing with the spring onions. You can see I've got these in here, and there are 18 plants in here. All hopefully, if Mrs. W is multi-sown correctly, we'll have about 6 to 8.
I think they're looking fairly
Onions.
good in quantity in the bunches.
Yeah, they do look good actually.
Yeah.
So that'll be spring onions that we'll get, I would hope, sometime in April.
Another guardsman variety that we've sown in there, aren't they?
Yeah, they're the ones we overwinter, and they always do very well actually. So yeah, guardsman's a really good variety of salad onion to overwinter, regardless whether they're indoors or outdoors. Now, one thing I did just want to say is a big thank you to you all, because you've all sent me messages in the comments about our citrus trees, suggesting various channels to watch and advice on, if you've grown them, how to actually keep them going. So thank you very much indeed for that. The great thing about our channel, we do get lots of comments, and you can all read them, and they will give you advice that maybe we don't know that advice about. And we're always reading them, and we find out something new all of the time.
We do, we're always learning. Thank you to all of our subscribers who take the time to comment and help us out, and hopefully we help you out as well.
Yeah, we really do appreciate your comments and your likes to our channel, because that really does help our channel. And for those of you that are new to our channel and maybe watching us for the first time, maybe not grown in a polytunnel before like us, and you want to see how we get on, because over the next few years, as we learn more and we become more experienced in growing, then we really will be able to give some top tips on growing undercover in a polytunnel. So do subscribe to our channel, and yeah, follow us through our journey. We do lots outside as well. It's not all undercover, but we're just mixing things up a bit for this year, and some of the things that we would normally grow outside, we're going to try inside. They do need to come inside, because don't forget, this used to be our 5th plot. We don't have this space anymore to be able to put all of these plants out, so some of them do need to be grown in here. And hopefully we can utilise this space really, really well.
We're definitely trying.
What I do actually like, and what I have noticed, behind Mrs. W there are the brassicas that we've put in, and indeed the spinach and pak choy that are in the middle bed. With the door closed and these vents up, it's keeping the temperature nice, but we aren't having the same problems with the cabbage whites that we are outside.
No, they're all locked out of here.
It's like one giant cloche, isn't it?
It is. It's brilliant. I love this space.
So, we've come full circle. But within about 2 weeks, it all starts all over again. And you can see here, we've got our Jamour bulbs, our Longor bulbs, and the garlic that we saved to replant. And all of that happens in the next 2 weeks. And the whole circle begins again. Now these are the last of the shallots to go into storage. They've dried out nicely. So they're all nice and cured. Tops are nice and dry. And we should do exactly the same to these. as we did to the onions earlier and our other shallots earlier, and of course the garlic. And if you're unsure on how to cure alliums and prepare them for storage, then do go back and find our video that we did earlier this year on exactly how you can do this. These have actually been amazing, haven't they, Mrs. W?
They're fantastic, aren't they?
And
look at the size of those shallots. The brune shallots.
Yeah. We should definitely sow those again next year.
Yeah.
Somebody actually did give us in the comments another variety which escapes me at the moment. Was it Rusa or something? Could have been.
I can't
But
remember
anyway,
now.
I am going to go back to that comment and source that seed too. And we shall try some of those.
Yeah, do a comparison.
Yeah.
That'll be
Certainly.
good.
These have been very good, and we have a nice harvest here of these brune shallots. Now do let us know in the comments down below what you think about the alliums. Are you giving some overwintering bulbing onions a try? Have you planted out some spring onions or salad onions that you can get a harvest from early next year, round about April? And if you are planting out some salad onions, what varieties are you sowing? They could be different to ours. I'd love to know exactly what you are sowing. Now, thank you all very much for your continued support of our channel. We've seen quite a few subscribers come on over the last month, haven't we?
We have,
I think
yes.
we've gone up by about another 100 over
Fantastic.
the last month, so we're really pleased about that, and we are so pleased to have you on board. And same with your comments, and yeah, we just love to read them. I know it's a bit late this week in answering back one or two of them, but as I say, we have been away. Now, we need to harvest some beans, Mrs. W.
I can't believe how they've grown in that short space of time since we've been away.
Yeah, and that just goes to show you just how quickly they do grow. There's lots here. We already have lots in the freezer, don't we?
We do.
That we've been doing over
We
the last
do.
few weeks. And it looks like there's going to be a few more, and our freezer really will be bulging. But it's great because you can have this lovely taste of summer all the way through the rest of this year and into next year.
I've even made my green bean chutney again this year.
Yes.
So
Yes, we've got the next
we've
lot
got
underway,
a
haven't we?
stash of that as well.
Yeah. If you haven't made green bean chutney before, that's another video to find on our channel and go back and watch. Really is lovely, and I'm sure some of our earlier subscribers that have been subscribers to us for the last year or so, they'll probably vouch just how great that tastes. It's a lovely, lovely chutney. And do look out for more recipes that will be on our channel and the way we preserve things. We have been filming quite a few over the last few weeks as our produce has become ready, and I shall be drip feeding those through over the next couple of months or so. Do have an amazing gardening week, and we shall see you next time.